There we go. Okay, anyway, I'm the director of SVC, and if you're not familiar with the school, just give you a really quick rundown. It's been around in Seattle since 1971. Would that make us 54 years old? I mean, it's been around a while. Started as a pretty traditional design school, art school, and then as the world changed, so as the school changed, and most of the classes now have something to do with digital deliverables. In fact, these are some of the classes coming up here in the next couple of weeks. If you see anything on there that intrigues you, there's a URL, svcseattle.com. Head on over and check them out. But most of what we've been doing over the last 12 years or so is we've run a certificate program for people who wanted to develop a portfolio and get jobs in either UX design or content design. And it worked pretty well. They were getting jobs or have gotten jobs at some pretty esteemed organizations like these. And so as a result of helping students get placed in companies like this, we've inevitably learned a few things about what seems to work and what doesn't when you go out on the job hunting trail. And that's really what I'm going to share with you tonight. This is kind of the benefit of having worked with and talked to 500 graduates and seeing what worked for them and what didn't. Now, you may say, I don't want to find a job as a UX designer. And I think no worries, because the tips I'm going to share with you apply to almost anything. In fact, maybe absolutely everything in terms of an occupation. So we'll keep the level pretty high, not get into the weeds so much on user experience design. Well, when you're talking about jobs, the thing that is pretty apparent to anybody is that it's hard, right? It's been a really tough struggle over the last, I'd say, 2 years practically. And so I'm just curious to know how it's going for you and how you're feeling. So just stick a single word in the chat that describes your sensibility around job hunting. By the way, if it's positive and you're thrilled and happy, I mean, that's cool too. Ambivalent, frustrated, rough, overwhelming, tough, flummoxed. I like flummoxed. I mean, I don't like to be flummoxed. Black hole, yes, indeed. Numbing. Okay, these are not lightening our load, are they, to see these comments? But that's good in a way. That is the point. We're going to talk about just this very issue, that it's hard, and there are some strategies you can undertake that will maybe help you crack through some of these difficulties that you're experiencing. I want to point out, just in case you might wonder, because we all kind of live in our own little world and we don't know sometimes what's going on the other side of our four walls. And that is to say, you're not imagining this. It really has been and is a difficult job market. And for all kinds of reasons, AI, it's real, and it is indeed coming for some entry-level jobs. But just a retraction in the market, and a lot of this started when Elon Musk bought Twitter. So if you want another reason to not be too fond of Elon Musk, here you go. When he took over Twitter and laid off 75% of the staff, and yet the service continued, that was a signal to other CEOs and chief financial officers, like, well, maybe we could cut our staff, maybe not that abruptly or severely, but we can cut our staff and still make money. And they did. And so this is a little data on what the situation has looked like over the last 4 years. And the purple, well, let's call it magenta. The magenta line are tech job postings, and the blue line are overall all job postings. And kind of curious, right now, overall job postings are sitting at an index number of 104, pretty equivalent to where they were in 2020. But tech job postings are well below the line, at indexing at 64. So if you're saying, like, it seems like it's hard to get a job, it's because it's hard to get a job. There aren't that many postings, or not nearly as many postings as there were at one time. So just curious to know, another little audience participation move here. If you have been applying for jobs and looking at job postings online, do you think you've got a number you could plug in? How many you think you've applied to? And then we'll all be horrified together. 100? Yeah. Hundreds. 200. Okay, I think Jesse's mentees are winning here. Yeah. 1,800. Yikes. We might have to have a little special moment with you. Okay, well, yeah, exactly. It's a big number. And the premise that I want to introduce you to is this notion, and that is it's kind of a waste of time, which you may have already figured out on your own. But I'd like to document that a little bit and give you an alternative to that because you can't just do nothing, right? So here is why job postings maybe aren't that effective in terms of what you're trying to do, which is land a job. So number one is they're public, right? They're published. And so you're not the only one that gets to look at them. And in fact, I would say maybe about a year ago, maybe a little longer than that, LinkedIn on their job postings board stopped showing you the actual number of people who are applying because some of them were getting into the 400 and 500 and 700 range. And I imagine they thought, gee, if we publish that number, it's just going to discourage people from trying. And that's not what the employers who are paying us to post their jobs want to see. So now they just say over 100. And almost all of them say, right? Almost all of them say that. So what that means is, let's say a posting has gotten 500 applicants, and you say, well, I'm pretty good at what I do, but am I better than 499 other people? And who knows? Maybe you are. But most of us we're above average, but we're not ridiculously awesome. And so this notion that somehow I have to beat out 300, 400, 500 other people, it's just a tall order. It just is. And so that's a dilemma with job postings. Everybody knows about them, and so everybody applies. You just saw a job with 1,200 applicants. See that? That does not encourage me. Problem number two, this one I didn't know about until relatively recently, and that is the jobs are filled sometimes before they're posted. And I heard a story about this that really drove home how this works. So one of our instructors at SVC was a studio manager for Amazon. This is Amazon headquarters here in Seattle. And he said that, like any big company, their hiring process was so drawn out that by the time they finally got permission to add headcount and wrote the job description, got the posting placed, interviewed the people, did the vetting, did the security checks and all that, the fire was out. They kind of, we don't need them anymore. And so what they started doing at Starbucks in their creative studio was they would pre-select who they wanted. So they would just meet you informally in a way I'm going to share with you momentarily. Or maybe you'd run into somebody at a conference and start the interview process that way. And that way they would kind of squirrel away the folks they wanted to hire. And then when they finally did get that permission to post the job and hire, they just say, well, you, this person over here who we've been waiting for to hire, come on in. The job gets posted anyway because it has to for legal reasons. We look at it and get all excited about it. Oh boy, a job at Starbucks, not even knowing that it's essentially been filled. And there are many, many instances like that. So it's depressing to say the least, but it's a reality. So if you see a job posting, there's not always certainty that there's a real job sitting on the other side of it. Third problem that I've witnessed, and we don't often think about this. By the way, I have to like read this sentence to you slowly because it looks like word salad. Job postings are about what the employer wants. They're not about what you want. And I really come from that place. It's like, why don't we go looking for the job that really suits us rather than just if you were going shopping for clothes and you walked into Nordstrom and everything on the rack was purple. It's like, well, I guess I'll get a purple suit. You don't want a purple suit. And so let's write down on our shopping list what we want and see if we can find it. Again, the dilemma is on any given day, you go on LinkedIn or Indeed, you have to shop from what's there. So here's a little job posting or a little job posting search, I should say, for sports marketing manager. Well, and I'll show you why I use that example in a minute. But now you look at the results. Do any of these look like sports marketing? I see real estate. I see insurance. I see Salesforce. I don't see sports marketing. And that's what I wanted to come and buy at this store, and they're not selling it. So that's like a major dilemma, because if you've really thought through what you want and what's going to be a successful job for you and it's not out there, that doesn't mean you can't go after it still. So my advice is not all right. This is pretty blatant. Skip postings. No, you're not going to skip looking at postings. But if you're spending 90% of your time looking at job postings, how about 10%? And because, as I say, they just aren't that effective. And I think you can use your time much more efficiently and in a much more positive way to turn your time into a job offer. This little flow chart here has become my go-to. It just says so much about how the hiring process is working right now. This was created by a mid-level UX designer, not here in Seattle, but who was looking for a new job. And I'll interpret this for you. So that big blue band at the top, that represents the 90 online applications she filed. So many of you were in that 100 or so range, and so was she. Well, what happened? Well, she got sent packing by 41 of them. No, thank you. But a far greater number, 67, just never responded. Does this jive with what you've been experiencing? Mostly ghosting, mixed in with some rejecting? I see nodding among those who are here. Yeah, I think it's pretty common. But then we drop below to I don't know what color that is. I'm going to call it cantaloupe. 12 of those jobs, or 12 of the initiations, at least, did not come from a website or a job website. It came from a human. And referral was, oh, a friend told me about this job, this opening. So an actual human being was involved. And then 10 more human beings who were recruiters reached out to this designer. And probably that's not a thing that's going to happen if you're in the early stage of your career. But once you have a few years under your belt, they're going to look you up too. So here were 22 human beings who said, let's talk about a job at my place. Notice that all 22, follow that lavender S curve down, all 22 turned into a phone screen or a first interview. Of those 22, 8, or a little better than a third, turned into a second interview. And of the 8 second interviews, 1 turned into a job offer that she accepted. So the math, if you just expand this out, and I have done so, I have asked graduates of our program to build flowcharts like this for me, and they tend to echo the same pattern. Filing online applications leads to 0% conversion, and getting human beings involved leads to a higher degree of conversion. In this case, 8. Well, I'm not sure what number you want to look at here. 1 out of 22, which is about 5%. 5% is better than 0% any day, and ultimately was successful in landing her a job. So this to me, this graphic here, more than anything else I could share with you tonight, says spend your time most profitably by getting humans involved in your job search. And so that is what 5 steps to better job hunting is all about. It's all about getting the human factor ramped up. Now, here's my disclaimer. We all understand that flossing your teeth is a thing that would be good. We should do that. And yet, do we do it? Well, yeah, we do it the day before the dental appointment, but they can tell. Why don't we do it more? I don't know. Is it inconvenient? Hurts? I have no idea, but we don't do it. And these 5 steps, I think, are like job hunting dental floss. It will sound good to you, it will make sense, and you won't do it. Believe me, I've shared this information with all kinds of people, and very, very few of them take me up on it. So that's actually pretty good news for those of you who think this could work for you and do take me up on it, because of all the people here tonight, I see there are about 40 people here, about 35 of them are going to blow this off. So that just opens the field for you to be the one that's pursuing this strategy and being probably more successful than they are. So take that or leave that. All right, step 1 of this process is you got to figure out what you want. And most often we think of job hunting as this one-way street, which is they've got the job and the paycheck and we desperately want it. And that assumes you've got nothing to add, which is ridiculous. They wouldn't hire you if you didn't bring something to the party. So we need to figure out, what is that thing that you bring to the party? Who's got it? Who would be interested in that? And is that going to work for us? Is that the kind of job we want? So you might want to grab yourself a screenshot of this so you can grab the URL and then the portfolio, the link is what I wanted to say, to this audit form. It's a Google sheet. When you get in there, make a copy of it, bring it into your Google Drive and go crazy. So let me walk you through this. What this is just a personal audit, so you can get a sense, as I was just saying, of what you want to do, but also what you've got in your corner that an employer is going to be interested in. So the first column is about, first column, your skills. By the way, I'm showing about 15 lines of depth here. You can add 30 lines, go as deep as you need to. But I just thought for the purpose of this presentation, we'll keep it more compact. Anyway, put down what you can actually do, what you know how to do. And notice this fictitious person does know stuff like Figma and a little HTML, but also knows Chinese and knows Korean. And we could probably have put other things here. So these don't all have to be technical job skills. They're just life skills, knowledge that this person has that they can bring to bear. Next column is your experience. So these are job titles you have held along the way. And maybe they're not seemingly relevant, like, is being a lifeguard have anything to do with being a marketing assistant? It might, depending on who you're being a marketing assistant for. This person, you can see, worked in a lot of restaurants, haven't we all? Was also a translator, art class volunteer TA. So there's some things here that might not seem on the surface to be of interest to a potential employer, but I would say hold your fire, because these may come out or may turn out later to be tiebreakers, you versus another candidate. Okay, next, what are you interested in? And this stuff could be totally irrelevant against the jobs that you're seeking. But again, you never know. They might have a relevance you haven't even thought of. So this person likes to cook, likes to travel, likes to go to the theater, does sumi in calligraphy. I'm not sure what employer cares about that, but I bet they're out there. And this next column is requirements. So these are your must-haves for the job. What if it needs to be 100% remote? Well, put that in here. What if it needs to have a 401k plan? Put that in here. What if it mustn't have anything to do with cannabis for whatever reason? Then put that in here too. So just list anything you can think of that describes the kind of place you want to work. This next column, I could talk for an entire hour about this one, but it's your challenges. And the thought here is all of us have something that we think, at least, is going to get in the way of us getting hired. Maybe we're too old. Maybe we look too young. Maybe we took time off to raise a family. Maybe we got laid off 2 years ago and cannot get back up on the horse. How are we going to explain all this stuff? And there are strategies we can employ. I'm going to just give you one example, but the point of this is just list these here so you can acknowledge them, be honest about them, and then deal with them. I talked to one of our former students earlier today. He was laid off a year ago. And since then, again, in the last 12 months, he's had 2 freelance projects that lasted 3 months each. So a recruiter looking at his LinkedIn profile is going to say, like, boy, this guy has kind of been inactive, and that will worry them because everybody wants to hire you away from another job. So I suggested to him, take those 2 3-month freelance jobs and fold them into a new thing and call it a design firm. Don't just name it after yourself because that just sounds like little old you. So call it, Snow Crab Design. Call it whatever you want. And Snow Crab Design has clients. And then you can list those 2 clients. And Snow Crab Design was founded the day after you were laid off, and it's still going today. And that casts just an incredibly different feeling around what you've been doing and your freelance work than sitting around fretting. Does that make sense? Like you really look like you've been employed and it's legit. I just want to make sure I'm trying to semi keep track of the chat and I'm really doing a terrible job. But anyway, caller, raise your digital hand if you really are dying to interject or have a question. Okay, so that's what challenges are all about. The next thing is we look at this, look at what we've written here, and see if we can detect some patterns. And if we can detect some patterns, then it probably leads to some job titles. So you look at this person who's clearly got the background in user experience design and also kind of heavy into the food. Well, what does that suggest? It suggests for the types of employers this person would hit up would probably also be in the food or hospitality zone. This is stuff, by the way, you're going to come to without thinking a great deal about it. But writing it down like this will remind you, oh, these are the things I need to stress when I'm creating my LinkedIn profile, when I'm writing a hello, I'd love to meet you email, because these are the industries and these are the skills that people are going to be seeking there. So, okay, well, what do we know now? We know what we want to do and at least categorically where we want to do it. But we need to narrow this down even further and know who are the people I need to talk to. So you remember that Starbucks example where they kind of already had somebody in mind and they were just waiting for the green light to hire. How do we become that person? And it's not by throwing online applications over the brick wall. So we need to figure out in step 2 who do we need to know and who needs to know us. So on the bottom of this spreadsheet, this template, you'll see that we've been looking at this personal audit, and we now want to slip over to this other tab, the category template. And you'll notice there are 2 category templates here. You create as many of these as you need for whichever industry categories you want to pursue. So we'll take our fictitious person here who said she wanted to pursue UX jobs in food and beverage. So the next step, you can see in this first column, is to list potential employers. Well, we can all think of some, right? Yeah, Starbucks, Panera, I don't know, Shake Shack. I mean, some come to mind, right? But not all of them come to mind, and particularly for industries that might be regional. So Here in Seattle, we know something about taco time, and boy, do we love it. Do you agree with me? We love taco time. But if you live in New England, you've never heard of taco time. So this is a really excellent task to put Chat GPT or some other large language model to work and say, as I did, what are some companies similar in the focus of their business as Starbucks, Tim Horton, Panera Bread, and Cava? And similar in scope of business means I need companies that are big enough to have a UX design team. So it's not going to do me any good to, uh, you know, call on, I don't know, Moto Pizza, probably too small. Well, thank you. Chat GPT spit out about 20 names, and I asked for 20 more. And boy, is it good at this. And because it knows all. And so we're fearing AI taking our job. Why don't we make AI help us get a job? And this is a way you can do that. So now we have a bunch of companies we can start to populate this list. And again, I'm just showing you about 15 rows. Go deep. All the rows you need are there for free, courtesy of Google. Once we know the companies that we're interested in approaching, we need some humans. Because remember, that's how this works. Humans get us in the door. Online job postings do not. So gone ahead and filled this out. And by the way, this example is on the template. So if I breeze right by this, you can go back and look at it. So we put in some names. These are real people and their real titles and their real LinkedIn profiles. And I pretended that our fictitious person was going to hit me up to introduce her or him to Robert Zweibel and Rob Stanton. And then I would introduce her when she's met Rob Stanton. Now, Rob Stanton can introduce her to Kyle Halstead, and you can see how this game works. And then the last three columns are where you can just keep notes, like what do I need to do next? What happened? And what happens after that? So going down to Pete's there, by the way, there's something worth pointing out. So Meredith Wright is a lead UX designer at Pete's, probably a good person to talk to. We want to go work at Pete's. But under introducers, it said TBD because when we went on to LinkedIn to see if we knew anybody who knew Meredith, we came up empty. And that's going to happen. So it's just TBD. We'll get back to Meredith because we do know somebody who knows Pavithra, whose name I'm mispronouncing. And once we meet Pavithra, Pavithra obviously knows Meredith because Meredith works for her, I'm guessing. And so as we go through this process, these TBDs are going to change to names of people we now know. And eventually we're going to be able to reach out to everybody. Now that might not be clear to you. Like, what? How did you come up with these names and how do you find these introducers? So for those of you who, there seem to be very divided opinions about LinkedIn. And I don't know why. There's some real haters. It's like, shoot, I don't know why. I mean, what an awesome tool for job hunting. So I'm going to go very pro LinkedIn here on you. So here in Seattle, it's baseball season. Well, I'd love to come back and talk about stalking because I don't think it is. Not the way we're going to do it. It's baseball season. Mariners in the playoffs, as they do every 24 years, and so therefore I want a job working for the Mariners, and so it's kind of a drastic career change for me, but I think I can pull it off. So I want to be the work in marketing management for the Seattle Mariners. So I'll show you how I would go about finding some names to add to my list of names and figuring out who's going to introduce me. So here we are on my LinkedIn page, and we're going to start with a search, and I'm going to type up in the search bar, marketing manager. So let's do that. Okay. And next I'm going to click that people bubble because I'm looking for people. Now we're going to go over to all filters because my idea here is I want to look for people who used to work for the Mariners. So I'm adding a company, typing in Seattle Mariners. Of course, you would want to talk to people who work there now, but past people are good too because they can be more honest with you. Here come some names. They're all second degree to me. I do not know these people. And I'm looking, kind of seeing what they're up to now. And this name, Cole, catches my eye. Cole Parsons. So let's go look at Cole, because he used to be marketing manager for the Boston Bruins, the hockey team. And let's see where he's up to now. Working with professional sports. Oh, was vice president of marketing for the Seattle Sounders soccer team. Used to work at an ad agency who had the Mariners as a client. Okay, well, that explains why he's showing up here in my search. So I click here and it shows me all the people I know who are also first degree to Cole. And looking at this list, I like Mike Hayward. They work together at the same ad agency on the Mariners account. I know Mike really well. He's taught here at the school, and I can just say, Mike, send him a message right here or send him a separate email. Mike, crazy idea. I'm changing careers. I'd like to talk to your buddy Cole. Could you introduce me? And I think he's going to say yes, because we have that kind of relationship. But there's another reason he's going to say yes, and it's because of step 3 in this process. And here it is. Step 3 is I'm only going to ask for a 13-minute meeting. So here are my specifics. I want a 13-minute meeting with Cole. I'm going to ask him 3 questions, and I'm going to get one name from him. And I might even whip out those 3 questions and give them to Mike and say, you can pass these 3 questions on to Cole so he'll know what this is all about. It's not about job hunting. It's about me getting to know him, getting to know the lay of the land, getting to know if I'm even suited for a job at the Mariners, what my strengths and what my weaknesses are. Why 13 minutes? Anybody have a thought on that? You can just come off mute or type it in the chat. 13
Because
minutes.
it's not a quarter of an hour and it's not just 10 minutes. It's a number you
Yeah,
remember.
what's the deal with a quarter of an hour?
It's too much time.
Well, yes, to those of you who have not kind of gotten caught up in the world of calendars, a quarter of an hour is the smallest unit of time on a business calendar, the way most people schedule their day. And so I'm consciously asking for less than the smallest. And Henrietta said it, it's different or it's weird. I don't remember what you said exactly.
It's memorable.
But thank you. That's the point. Like, who would ask for 13 minutes? And in my introductory email, I'd say, if I'm talking at minute 14, hang up on me. You have my blessing, which they won't do, of course. And if they want to go longer than 13, which they will, fine. But the memorability and the weirdness of 13 minutes is why they will not turn you down. Whereas if you say, hi, can I come in for an informational interview? Then they go like this, because that just meant an hour out of their life just disappeared. And they don't want to do that. But 13 minutes, everybody will give you 13 minutes. So a point I would make about this, incidentally, is sometimes I talk to our graduates and I say, well, are you getting out there? Are you talking to people? And they say, yeah, I've talked to all of my instructors from the school, and I talked to some people where I used to work. It's like, well, that's a form of networking, but the form I'm proposing here is to network with people you don't know. The people you know already know you. They already love you. They already probably know you're looking for a job. But the people who don't know you don't know any of those things. And they're going to be more valuable to you. So yes, this is the scary part. It's also known as talking to strangers. But sorry, it's what we have to do in order to break through and be known at these companies where we want to work. So we're gonna be brave. We're gonna try to meet people who we don't already know, but who we have a friend who knows them. So it's not like you're coming in cold. And we're gonna ask these 3 questions that demonstrate our knowledge. And they're not going to be big generic questions like, well, what's it like to work at the Mariners? Because that says we haven't even thought about it very hard. So one of our students who seeks to be a content writer is named Julia Wenzel, and she's been a kayak guide for many years. So outdoors is really important to her. So guess where she would like to work? REI. That's right. I don't know if anybody said that or not. So she went on LinkedIn and found Josh Froschheiser, who turns out is former instructor here at SVC and senior principal product designer, and he's involved in CX strategy. Do you know what CX is? That's customer experience. So UX is user experience. What happens on a website or an app? CX happens in real life in the store. And apparently Josh is getting involved with that. So she wrote 3 questions. And again, the purpose is to say, these are not generic. I've researched your company. I know something about your industry, and I know something about you. So here was question number 1. I saw you were recently promoted to senior product designer. Congratulations. Well, she learned that on LinkedIn. And what has she just done? She's demonstrated she does a little homework. But her question goes on: is this an indicator of growth at REI in the UX team, or are you more of a holding pattern? That's actually kind of valuable to know. If they're in a growth mode, well, this is a good time to kind of double up on REI. If they're in a holding pattern, we'll move them down the priority list. Question number 2, does your team get involved in CX design in the retail stores? So, again, she was paying attention. She saw that Josh had something to do with CX. She used the term, which makes her feel like a member of the club. And then she does this amplification. With all the struggles that retail has been having, do you find that the operations team is open to experiments and innovation? That's really a pretty interesting question, because it's probably kind of weird. There's probably some weird tension there where the store operations people kind of don't want the digital folks coming up with ideas. I have no idea. I don't work at REI. But that she has some recognition that could be an issue shows that she's, smart about how business works. And now this one is adjacent, I suppose, to a job hunting question. What do writers do at REI? Are they cross-functional? In other words, do they do web content, catalog content, UX writing, or are they more pigeonholed? To what extent do you get involved in the hiring of writers, Josh? What do you look for in a portfolio? And finally, that whole idea of get one more name. So she says, who would be the best people to talk to at REI about future writing jobs? Low pressure, not asking you for a job. This isn't an interview, but who might I talk to? So that's why it's so important to get out the door with one more name in your 13 minutes and say, thank you. Could you please introduce me via email so I can get in touch with this person and set up a 13-minute session with them? So you might not want to do this. I don't know. A lot of people just kind of clam up around that fear of talking to people they don't know. But I'm going to give you maybe the best reason I could think of for why you should just power through and do this anyway. And it is this, which is it's good for your self-esteem. And if I go back to the top of the chat and read the terms that you listed about how you're feeling, seems like we could use a little bubbling up of our self-esteem and our attitude. And why is that? Well, look at those rejections and look at those ghostings. And I don't care who you are and how well you can create boundaries and stick to them. But if you get told no, or get out of here, or you don't even deserve an answer, what is that? 108 times, it takes its toll. It absolutely does. And if you're kind of feeling like nobody loves me, that's going to come through when you finally do get a chance to talk to somebody. And so we have to manage our own attitude and our own kind of joy, you might say. So when we get into an interview situation or even a 13-minute meeting, we come off as a positive, confident person that they want to be around. And remember, the whole point of this is be the person they want to hire when they get that go ahead to do that. So that's why. Do this. Your brain will just hear the word yes and won't really think too hard about, well, they didn't say yes, you're hired, but they did say yes. And we need to hear more yeses right now. So when you get out there, or before you get out there, you're going to probably send your 13-minute person your LinkedIn profile, or maybe send them a link to your portfolio if you have one. Doesn't make a difference if you do or not. But these people get hit up a lot, particularly if they're recruiters or hiring managers. And this is what we look like to them, which is, that's a problem, right? We don't stand out. How are they going to remember us 6 months down the road? And those of you who are in design and do have portfolios, I've noticed this tendency to almost give into this, like, oh, you think I'm almost like every other person out there? Well, I'll show you that you're exactly right. So I went online and I found some UX portfolios. These aren't from our students. I just kind of just went around the internet and found some. Tell me if you see a pattern here. Hi there. I'm Maiga. I don't know how to say it. Hi, I'm Daniel. Hi, I'm Amy. Hi, I'm Andrew. Hi, I'm Katja. Hi, I'm too small to read. Uh, it goes on and on. Hi, I'm Meg. Hi, I'm Freddie. Hi, I'm Christy. Hi, I'm Kayla. I am you, right? What are these people saying by doing this? What's the takeaway? Guilty. Yes, you are. And I'm going to whack you. Uh, no, what are they saying? If you have a high I'm, what does it say? Generic, but what's underlying that?
I'm looking for
Um,
something.
well, how about this? How about if it's saying like, hi, I don't have any original creative ideas. Yeah, thank you, Sharon. Hi, I'm good at copying stuff. And I don't think employers are looking for that. They want you for your unique strengths, not, hi, I can copy. I can be like everybody else. And so we know right out of the gate with this incredibly valuable real estate of the homepage of your website or your LinkedIn profile, this is not the place to say, hi, I'm generic. So I'll show you somebody who didn't. This is a student who was trying to get a job and did as a content writer. And we were talking, she came in with a hi, I'm Rebecca. And it's like, all right, let's go through this same exercise. So we talked about what she'd done in her past. And you remember my kayak guide student? Well, this student also had a pretty interesting past. She used to be a ballet dancer. And look at this lovely thing that she wrote. I mean, this is A plus, right? Pretty sweet, right? And she picked up on the whole ballet thing again in her about me section. So she's not only hi, I'm like everybody else, but in these protracted hiring processes that employers go through, and it's 6 months from the time they met you to when they're finally ready to hire. They have forgotten you. I think she stands a better chance because somebody's going to say, "Well, you remember that woman that came in, the ballet dancer? We liked her." So there's this visual uh, mnemonic, I guess you'd call it, to remember her. This is another one of our graduates, Sophia Leonard, and I just think this is really great. She says, untangler of knots and connector of dots. And then this copy, she says, don't give me the glamour project. Don't give me the front page of mercedes-benz.com. I want the back end, B2B, complicated, gross. Nobody wants to deal with it. And she says this again here. I like the complicated stuff. I think this has got to be really attractive to a hiring manager because everybody you think wants the consumer stuff and the glamour stuff. And she's saying, not me, not what I do. And they probably have a hard time attracting people who want to do the back end, super duper analytical things. And she's saying, I own it. I want it. She just got hired uh, I think about 2 or 3 months ago with this portfolio. So it does work. But again, like the ballet dancer, the tangled knot, I'm going to remember the tangled knot person, even if I've forgotten her name, which I probably will as a hiring manager. Last item, step 5, and that is you got to keep your name out there. So you're having these 13-minute meetings. There may be turning into other meetings that go longer than 13 minutes, might even be turning into an interview. But this is an elongated process. And how do you keep them from forgetting about you? Well, those of you who live in Seattle, and I'm going to guess this is true practically everywhere, you think of companies that, like us, when we're looking for a job, we have to have the timing just perfect. That we're looking, they're looking to hire somebody, and they know we're out there. Boy, that moment in time is hard to predict, and because it is, you kind of have to be there a lot. And I thought, well, what are other companies like that? And again, in Seattle, if it weren't for these two kinds of companies, there would be no advertising. This is all you see on television and on the sides of buses. And that is plumbers, right? You see this, Seattle people? And what's the other one I'm going to show you? Laura, you said it, but you were on mute. Plumbers and
Lawyers.
Lawyers.
yay, lawyers. You got it. And what I think these have in common is you don't need it the day before you have your car accident. You don't need it the day after. You don't need a plumber the day before your toilet is stuck. You don't want it a week after. You need it now. And it's a bit analogous to job hunting, which is they're going to decide they need us. They're going to get the green light to hire. And if our name is not up here somewhere, we're gonna miss that boat. So it's like, well, we're not going to buy TV ads to promote ourselves. What could we do? Well, you already heard me say I'm a LinkedIn fanboy. So I'm going to say, LinkedIn, we're going to do LinkedIn. And I'm going to advocate that you post twice a month, minimum twice a month to LinkedIn, and just get your name out there in a way that's intriguing so they can't forget you. And intriguing also means other people are going to pick up on it and comment on it and share it and so forth. So I took my car in to be serviced. And as I was walking back to my office, I walked by this billboard and I thought, wow, that's a horrible billboard. Here it is. Visit Woodland Park Zoo today. I thought, really, that's the best you got? And so I wrote a 4-word LinkedIn post. When was copywriting outlawed? And in so doing, I'm inviting people to agree or disagree with me. And look what happens. There you go. See, look what happened. 395 people gave me a heart or a thumbs up. 296 people typed an actual comment. There were some fights going on, by the way, in the comment. That was fun. And overall, I don't know if you can see that little number down there. So here it is bigger. This thing got 71,000 impressions. And again, 4 words. And no, I didn't get a job offer because I'm not looking for one. But go down to the third one here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words. I saw a billboard for a hospital, and I wrote, and it said, where compassion meets expertise or something. And my line was, where one big overused word meets another. And that got 8,000 impressions. So I'm not investing much energy in this, and I don't advise you to either. Find something, put it out there, state your opinion. And in so doing, you're also sharing with people what your sensibilities are around advertising or copywriting, which happens to be my career. So, but that's not the real reason. We're just trying to keep our name out in front of people. Okay, last idea and a bonus idea. And by the way, don't bail on me right at the top of the hour, because we have a little bonus content for you besides this, if you can stick around. Don't go through this alone, because it's hard and you need support. You need other people to give you ideas and share thinking with you. So here's a book, Never Search Alone by Phil Terry. And Sure, go buy the book if you want. But even if you don't buy the book, go on the website and join a job search council. And it's made up of people who are looking for a job. And they may or may not have anything to do with you, but in a way that's kind of okay. They're just there for moral support and to let you know what's going on in their world. And in this book, Phil lays out some, specific ideas for how you can plan a job search, and that's all good stuff. But the main idea is this job search council. And by the way, we're gonna create our own job search council here in just a second. Well, let's do it right now. Uh, I've set up this Google form, and if you want to participate in this, go ahead and go to this URL, fill out the form, and I'll send out the results to anybody who entered their information on the form. And you can find out who's in your time zone, who's looking for the same kind of job you are. And you can just handle this on your own and maybe get together with some other people and urge each other on. Also, this article just came in today. This is from another one of our instructors. So you might want to get a screen grab here. If you've been fired, which is kind of adds a whole additional dimension of depression and low self-esteem to the mix. Ted's really written a wonderful essay here on why it ain't your fault and how you can kind of move beyond that. So this is really well done. So in summary, what are we going to do here? We're going to figure out what we want out of this deal and where we want to go do it. And that's the personal profile template. We're going to connect with the people who need to know us, and we're going to start by developing a list of who those people are. We're going to set up those 13-minute meetings. And if you say, well, how many should I be doing? And I'd say, well, how about one a day at least? Do more if you can. We're going to think of ways to differentiate ourselves in just how we talk about ourselves, but also in your portfolio and in your LinkedIn profile. And you're going to keep your name out there by taking pictures of billboards. I do it however you want. Don't put a lot of effort into writing this, the essay of all time, because if you make it too hard, you won't do it. So this begs the question, or does it? It seems to me it does. Does this work? Is this idea, any of these ideas worthwhile? And even though we're 4 minutes away from our intended ending time, I hope you can stay for maybe another 5 minutes after that, because I'd like to introduce you to Basma Khalaf, a graduate of our UX design program from a few years ago, who, by the way, got a job, boom, right out of this program and is now herself in the midst of a job search. So I'd like to introduce you to Basma, and she has some really great ideas to share with you. So Basma, thank you. Oh, 13 minutes. Well, that's a lot, but sure, if you can. If you have to leave, by the way, at the top of the hour, bye. Thank you for coming. We'll get an email out tomorrow with a link to the video and this deck and our networking document. So Basma.
Yeah, cool. Hello, everyone. Nice meeting you all, and thank you, Larry, for having me. Yeah, just want to start by saying being unemployed sucks. So I'm gonna start with that. It's super draining and all that, but I feel like it's a process. We all have to go through it. I myself have had some gaps in my career, whether because like I left a job, got laid off, etc., whatever that is, left a toxic job most recently. And I just want to mention like interviewing is also a two-way communication. Like you're also taking the opportunity to interview the hiring manager because that's the person you're going to be spending your day with, or like the teammates. So don't take it as a way like they're just like asking you questions or it's fully focused on you, but take it as an opportunity that you're also interviewing them. You're interviewing to see if the culture is a good fit for you and your values and all that. And one of the most important things I also want to add to the 30-minute thing, also add the Calendly link to make it easy for them to just like pick a time, because usually it's going to go back and forth between you and that person, on like times, days, etc. So like make it as easy and as smooth. I've personally followed this advice like so many times, and to be honest, a lot of times it was direct communication between me and the hiring managers directly, rather than like applying online endlessly. So yeah, it just like worked out like, hey, like I used it for 15 minutes. I have to be honest. I haven't done the 30 minutes. I probably need to switch to that. But yeah, I want to open it up to questions too, to see if there are any questions, thoughts, maybe we can discuss it. And also leaning on a community. So when I first moved here, I figured I haven't been like as part of any community, so I started looking for ones. I for now run one of them. So it's also like a nice opportunity. Like if there isn't any community in the area, maybe you can create your own community or like events and invite people to it. And that's also a way for you to network with people and be connected to them, because I feel like it makes it easier when you're also connected and as part of a community too. So yeah, I want to pause here, open it up for questions and see if anyone has any questions.
While we're waiting for people to type a question in the chat, I want to ask you, and boy, I hope I don't stick my foot in my mouth here. The jobs that you've had, so you had a job with Toyota
Yes.
and then Amazon,
Yes.
and now you're on the verge, it looks like, of a third job.
Yes.
Did you find these just by sending in online applications? Any of them?
They've all had interesting stories. With Toyota, it was a tweet back in the days when it was Twitter. Figma posted, "What's your dream job?" or something, and then the VP or the hiring manager at the time posted that they were hiring. I also posted my portfolio. I said product design, blah blah blah. And that was like the beginning. That was like when I was still at SVC. So I posted my portfolio and then posted what's like my dream job, and then he reached out to me, and that was over Twitter at the time. So it was just super random. Like I wouldn't have expected that. So that now most of the community is moving into threads. So that's like also a way to look into jobs. With Amazon, I forgot how it happened. But it was also like a communication between me and a recruiter. It wasn't like an application or anything. With my third option right now, it was also a recruiter who reached out to me over LinkedIn. So it's always been a communication. It never worked out with me like with just applying, to be honest. Unless it was like less than 100 applicants and I applied directly, then maybe they would see my application.
Okay, so I'm safe in saying humans were involved
Yes,
in
fully
all
agree.
three. Good.
Fully agree on that. Oh, yeah, I
Good
like
call
Creative
out
Mornings.
from
Yeah.
Anna about Creative Mornings and Seattle Creative Social. Yes, indeed. If you are in this area, those are wonderful organizations. No cost to attend. Now, downside might be you're meeting other people in your boat. You're not meeting potential employers necessarily, but that's okay, because again, we're looking for people we can use as a support network as we go through this. Does
Also,
anybody have a question for Basma?
just want to
Yeah, go
ask super
ahead.
quickly, also like the power of networking when you don't need a job too. Like networking and talking to people and communicating and building that like authentic connection with them prior to like actually having a need that you actually need a job. So I feel like that's also helpful too.
Anna has a question, so
Well,
ask away.
I wanted to add to that because you can use your network in different ways. To your earlier point, who should know me, right? Because you're searching for something. If you're especially like pivoting in your career or you're doing a little soul searching, that's a really great way to get insights from other people that are maybe adjacent or close in that marketplace. And that way you're being intentional with asking them questions and engaging with them. But they might not be the person to, help you find the job, but because they're in that space, they might be your first and second connection when you do figure out where you want to be and when you're doing your LinkedIn connections. When you activate your network intentionally like that, I have found people to be really generous with introductions. And then vice versa, it gives you an opportunity to maybe recommend them for something, use your network for someone else's behalf as well, because you have a network, and if you're meeting people and they are looking, that gives you a chance, Bosma, to your point, to give back as well, because then you're being generous with your connections as well.
Really good advice. Yeah. I saw another question here. From from Sharon. Have you ever had someone turn down your meeting request?
Yes, had that. And it was out of like they're getting a lot of messages, they don't have the time, etc. So like super understandable, honestly. And usually if I have specific questions to them, then I would send it over. But I feel like for me, like I go with the mentality like I'm gonna send these hiring managers like messages and I'm not expecting any reply. And if they do, like that's a blessing to me. Like I'm gonna be super happy, but I'm not like gonna go and expect like any replies back from them. Because a lot of times they wouldn't even reply, but there are so many instances where they do, and that's also helpful too.
And may I say, the whole deal with the 13-minute meeting is to not get a turn down. So most people, I'm guessing if you've been turned down, you were vague in your ask. And if you're very specific in your ask and it's a very small ask, it's pretty rare that you're going to get a rejection.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else over here? Any other questions?
I see a question here. Any additional tips for networking that haven't been mentioned? What makes a busy stranger interested? I would say honestly, like going to events and even like online events doesn't necessarily need to be in person. Um, yeah, like networking with people over LinkedIn for sure. I personally follow designers off of Instagram, for instance. Like if I'm interested in someone's work, I would like send them a message and tell them like, hey, like your work doesn't necessarily like I'm not expecting anything in return, but like, like just being connected to the community in a way. But yeah, like also like joining, there are a lot of like Slack groups and on Discord. Like if you're part of like design system, then there's like a specific group for that one. Then maybe you can like join like more specific groups. That's like more towards the design world. But yeah, I would say like all that.
I'd add one thing to this question, and it's what makes picking up on the part of the question that says what makes a busy stranger interested, and it's the word stranger. And what I would propose to you is like, don't talk to any strangers. I did say talk to people you don't know, but that's different from a stranger, because anybody that I'm advocating you talk to, you will have been introduced to them by someone you do know. And so it's never a cold call, it's always a warm call. And they're coming in with you're coming in with the endorsement of somebody they know and presumably have some trust in. And so the anxiety I think we all feel over talking to a complete stranger goes away, because, or at least it's reduced, because we're there by invitation, we're there with an endorsement. So don't talk to strangers. I think that's still good advice.